So I get knives in that are good. I get knives in that are bad. And then every once in a while, I get a knife in that makes me want to drink heavily. Oh, let's crack into this thing.
So with the humor of the intro aside, this is how this knife came shipped to me. So I don't want you to think that this was carried by the owner. This was shipped, I checked with the owner. This was shipped to me directly from the company. This is the Carnivora Knives Mako. Now, when I got this, I honestly thought that this was a knife that he had carried. Just looking at the sheath, like this is how it came. And then I looked at the knife and I saw the sharpening and stuff on it. And I was like, okay, well, maybe he had it and he did some stuff to it. And like, it's got some rust on it because maybe, he'd been, working with it. And that's why it's kind of scuffed up. No, this is how it came. Now, Carnivora Knives is a company that is taking orders. They have two different versions of this knife. One is this one that is in 80CRV2. And then they have a 3V version. Now, we're going to go through all the things that I find wrong with this. One, it's rough. It is very rough, especially for what you're paying for it. So let's look at all the stuff. First of all, the blade is kind of ground inconsistent. It definitely has an asymmetrical point, as you can see on this at the very tip on the edge. That could be a lot of sharpening, but it looks like it's ground a little asymmetrical. Now, I will say these are being handmade. It came rusted. It came rusted. There are a lot of problems with how the work was done, the chamfering of the holes and things like that. These are pins that are in there. It was ordered to have removable hardware and removable scale. Obviously, you can't do that because it looks as though, I can't tell for sure, that's either epoxy or CA glue. There's a lot of roughness to this that I would not expect, considering this is a $340 knife in 80CR. In 3V, it's $530. And I can't imagine that, because I'm going to tell you right now, he ordered this knife in September of 2022 and it just arrived at my house, direct shipped to them. That means that they just finished it. That means that over a year they've been doing this. Now, nothing has been softened on this knife. This knife is nothing but sharp angles. That is very, very aggressive. The consistency of the finish and if that's forge scale, that's fine. That's forge scale, but I don't think it is. I think that's a coating of sorts that just is not on there real well. This super sharp all the way up. That is a sharp point that comes down to a sharp edge. This would have been fine to have this on a Scotch-Brite wheel. This back jimping back here, while the jimping is nice and sharp, it's aggressively sharp at the edges and the corners. The way this was chamfered, they put these hollow pins in. I'm not a fan of hollow pins to begin with. But then when they chamfered these out after they put the pins in, you can see where they ground a couple of these to the point where, I'm pretty sure I could pound that pin out. There is not much of a lip holding that on this side. Then you get into this. The handles were supposed to have been removable with removable hardware. This is obviously epoxied, maybe CA glued. Then you have more of this, some sort of a coating or a finish, or it might just be oil from an oil quench. I'm not sure. But you can see here, there's a line in there with magic marker where they drew a line on this to marry that material back and didn't grind to it. And then once they put the handles on, they didn't bother to marry it up. So you got a really sharp edge here and sharp edges all around, which on this glass breaker would be fine, but there's no reason that you can't hit this on a grinder and knock this edge off. And then when you grab this thing, look at that. When you grab it in the grip that's the way it's supposed to be, that ramp right there is super sharp. And I mean, not just if you've got sensitive hands. No, that's very, very sharp. And I get a rustic knife. I can understand it. I get rustic knives. I dig it sometimes. But for what you're paying on this, I wouldn't want it to be this rustic. And then, like I said, sharp edge on everything. They didn't marry this up. It's very, very sharp, uncomfortable in hand. And then on these holes, I don't know what they used to do it. It looks like they used a dull drill bit and it chattered. So it's not even a clean finished hole. So all of that combined just isn't great. And then, like I said, then we look in here And if you see this fuller that's on this blade, really inconsistent, really crude, not squared off, not clean, lots and lots of rough finish material in here where they could have easily cleaned that out. Just not well done in general. This hard edge on that, that's not such a big deal. I don't care about that. That doesn't bother me. And then, like I said, if you look at this edge on this for a custom knife, the edge on this is just really, really bad. Now, when you look here we get into edge inconsistency, and this is completely misground. So I'm gonna step away from this for a second because there's a couple other things I want to bring up.
Guys, you've heard me talk about Coffee Brand Coffee a bunch of times. I'm going to do it again real quick. Coffee Brand Coffee is a channel sponsor. They are a great company sponsoring small channels like mine, but they also are a guilt-free purchase because they do not practice any politics. They have a money-back guarantee, and they roast their coffee on demand. So if you're interested in it, my link down below in the videos saves you 10% at checkout, sometimes more depending on what they've got going on as far as specials and sales. So go check them out. Great product. Thank you very much for sponsoring the channel, Coffee Brand Coffee. Let's get back to the knife.
So this brings us to the sheath, and I threw an ad in there, and I just kind of stepped away from this for a little bit because I'm kind of frustrated with the amount of money my buddy paid for this and what he got. You can see they didn't try to clean up anything they did on the sheath. The sheath is all marred up. It's dirty. It's got stuff on it. It looks like it's been in my grandfather's barn for a few years. And then it's got this, like, this is not a real good idea. I don't like clip sheaths, and I like them even less on something this incredibly heavy. This is a big, beefy knife, and I think I would like this knife a lot if it had some more refinements done to it. Like if they fixed some of this, this could be a halfway decent knife, but not at $340 and definitely not at $529, because you can't tell me that the quality of this knife in 3V is going to be any better than it is in this. Your workmanship, your craftsmanship is your craftsmanship, period. But this sheath, this needed to be kind of more open. It is difficult to get the knife in. It wants to punch into the side here, and you're gonna, like, that's a very acute tip on a big knife like this. You're gonna drive this knife right through that sheath somewhere, and it's either gonna go into your hand or it's gonna go into your leg or something like that. So the sheath needs to be done in a different fashion somehow. There's no retention on the sheath. It's not got any retention on this. Now, there are a lot of ways to do this. You could use magnets and stuff like this, but on a knife this heavy, that's going to start falling out, because the thing is, leather expands, leather stretches. This is the best this sheath will ever fit this knife. And that as that leather stretches and expands, you're going to have problems. There's no secondary retention on this. There's a lot of really poorly done things on this sheath. There's not been any finishing on the actual seam and welt. It is sewn really well, but like this, I would expect this to be finished with that shined, finished, and waxed to help prevent water getting in and expanding. Then, like I said, the sheath is just dirty and beat up. Lots of markings left from the sheath fitting process that should have been removed. And then on top of that, this material's a little thin, in my opinion. For something as big and beefy as this material is a little thin. Like I said, I'd be really afraid that I'm going to punch through the side of the sheath and into myself. And then some final little things. Like I said, the plunge grind, really, really inconsistent. And there's just not this isn't a good choil. This is not a good finished sharpening choil. That is so sharp. It's almost like a fish hook. I really don't like anything about this knife. And on top of everything, my friend waited a year to get this knife and then had it shipped to me. And when I was talking to him about it, he goes, well, yeah, the original, the prototype knife I saw had hollow pins. And he's like, so I definitely told him I didn't want that. I'm like, no, it has hollow tube pins, just brass tube used as the pins. And he's like, well, it was supposed to be removable. So after a year of waiting, he got a substandard product that still wasn't what he ordered. So like I said, I want more American knife companies, and I definitely want knife makers to get better at, but you can't do it this way. And the fact is, a year, if your wait time's a year, you should think about closing your books for a while. And With that being said, please just take this as constructive criticism. There's a lot of potential here. This is a good design. I like the design. It's a big, beefy chopper, but I can't even hold it to do any of the things I would want to do with it. So that's all I've got on this one. Let's turn this around, do some final thoughts, send you out about your day.
There you go, guys. I really feel as though that my friend kind of did not at all get what he was expecting. This is not what I would expect from a $400 knife, or especially not a $500 knife. 340 or 530, depending on the steel you pick. It just, the quality really isn't there. And not to just keep banging. Just just keep hitting them with a stick. No, I'm not going to keep doing that. But I just did think I wanted to bring this to you guys' attention before you up and did that. So, guys, maybe take a look at your process and look at what you're actually providing, because there's a lot of knives out there that are custom, that are at a much cheaper price, that are done way, way better. So, guys, that's it on this one. We're not going to get into everything. You guys know what to do. I put a sponsor link, sponsor ad in here. There's sponsor links down below. Coffee Brand Coffee, Tempered Trail, Dahlstrong Knives. Go to any of those, check them out. Coffee Brand Coffee and Coffee Brand Coffee and Tempered Trails have discounts built into the links. You can also use coupon code Crazy Sharp at either one of those. It's all one word, Crazy Sharp. That also works at Farrenforge Knife Works and Rosecraft Blades. You can also go down. I've got affiliate links for almost every big knife vendor, Blade HQ, all of those ones down there. They're down there. If you're going to buy knives, which we know you are, go ahead and use my link. It doesn't cost you anything extra. I've got an Amazon store. You're going to buy stuff on Amazon. Take that link, pin it to your browser, use it for any shopping you're going to do. And I have a membership that's all tier-based. Pick the tier that works best for you. There is a community Discord, but there's also a private Discord for the paying members. There's a link to that down below. You got to be a member to get into the private Discord. I do giveaways to the paying members if you are of the levels high enough, and there's a sharpening tutorial series for the top tier guys. Guys, that's it on this one. I love you all. Keep it clean in the comment section. If it's your birthday, happy birthday, and I'll see you in the next video.